applicants here. There are 4 members here today rather than the typical 5. We have a couple of people who aren't here. I just want to let you know that should a decision be made unanimous, of course, it will go one way or the other. Should it be 3-1, it will go whatever way it is. But if the decision is split 2 and 2, then the motion will not carry. It's just that simple. Now, if that's the case and you're concerned about that, we can certainly let you come on back. It'll be a next meeting, or, it'd be your choice. I've been involved in ZBAs for a long time, and I've yet to see something like that happen, but it can. So I just want to let you know that. So it'll be your decision, and we'll move on with things. Okay, well, let's start off by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item number 3 on our agenda is the approval of this agenda. Are there any comments, changes that need to be made?
Staff does not have any changes to the agenda.
Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to accept the approve the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Support. We have support. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any negative? Say no. Okay, next thing on the agenda is number 4, public comment of any non-agenda items. If there's anybody here who has something that does not deal with anything on our agenda, you have a comment, now is the time to do it. And seeing none, we'll move on to the number 5, which is the approval of the minutes of September 23rd. Are there any discussion, any changes, anything needed? In that case, I'm looking for a motion
I move that we approve the minutes from September 23rd, 2025.
and support.
Support.
Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, that carries. Item number 6, it's a frontage variance for 3815 and 3841 North 3rd Street. Go ahead and you can let us know what you can say about it.
Thank you, Vice Chair. The property owner, Eric Weathers, is requesting a variance to allow for the land redescription of 2 properties, resulting in a parcel that would have 119 feet of road frontage, while the ordinance requires there to be a minimum of 200 feet of road frontage. Visual of the 2 properties and their current configuration is provided on this slide. Michigan courts have provided and applied 5 principles for a variance. These standards of review are outlined here on the slide. Over the next few slides, I'll provide a summary of each standard against this frontage variance request. The first criterion to consider is unique physical circumstances. The applicant has indicated that there are no physical limitations affecting the property, such as grading concerns, etc. However, it should be noted that there are several unplatted parcels directly across the street that have less than the 200 feet of frontage required by the zoning ordinance. Frontage of nearby properties includes parcels with 165 feet of frontage, 132 feet, 110 feet, and several with 82.5 feet of frontage. The second criterion to consider is whether conformance is unnecessarily burdensome. Use is currently being made of the property, and denial of the variance would not prevent the property owner from continuing the use. A redescription of the properties as proposed by the applicant will not be permitted unless a variance from the frontage requirements is granted. That said, it is possible to redescribe 3841 North 3rd Street so that the existing frontage of 165 feet north of 3815 North 3rd Street remains unchanged. So rather than reducing the frontage of 119 feet per the applicant's request, which is illustrated in the visual on the top right-hand side of your screen, the existing 165 feet of frontage could be retained, reducing the amount of relief necessary if a variance were to be granted. The alternate relief would still eliminate the non-conforming, non-contiguous road frontage while also not decreasing the frontage any further. A visual of this alternate relief is provided in the bottom right-hand corner of this slide. The third criterion to consider is substantial justice. So in researching past ZBA decisions regarding variance relief from the frontage requirements for a boundary line adjustment, planning department staff identified 2 cases that may help the ZBA consider past precedents, and a summary has been provided in the report from staff. The next criterion to consider is whether the request is a self-created hardship. The applicant's interest to re-describe the 2 properties is what is creating this request. Hypothetically, the applicant could seek to acquire additional frontage from an adjacent parcel to make up the required 200 feet of road frontage. Although the frontage would no longer satisfy the minimum requirements of the zoning ordinance, it could be argued that the applicant is bringing 3841 North 3rd Street closer to compliance by proposing to eliminate the non-contiguous frontage component the parcel currently presents, which is non-conforming. The last criterion to consider is regarding the health, safety, and welfare of others. If the variance is granted, it is not expected that the request would negatively impact the health, safety, and welfare of the public. On this slide is a summary of the findings of fact for both approval and denial of a variance. And then last are possible board motions, which include 1, the ZBA approves the variance request, and if the ZBA so chooses this motion, staff requests that a condition be attached that all requirements in the township's land redescription process are satisfied by the property owner. 2, the ZBA denies the variance request, or 3, the ZBA approves alternate variance relief. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions? Here. Okay, see none? Would the property owner like to step forward and speak to this?
I'm Eric Weathers, property owner, along with my wife, Maria. Do you have any specific questions in general you'd like me to address, or would you just like me to present the case?
Present your case, and then we'll ask some questions, unless somebody has something right off the bat. Okay, see none, please
Okay.
go ahead.
We originally purchased the property in 2000, August of 2001, and it was already zoned as 2 separate parcels, although it was just one property. At the time, we've used it as one particular parcel. The home and buildings are on the smaller parcel, and there are natural tree lines. There are tree lines that create natural boundaries. So to stand anywhere in the yard, it's very obvious that the property goes from there to there and then back to there. The survey lines show something different, with the second larger property seriously encroaching, so to the fact that it pretty much just encircles the house and driveway. And as such, it's really not beneficial for the 3815 parcel or the 3841 parcel. So what we are trying to do is to change the official property lines, essentially to go from tree line to tree line, that would still give the larger, yes, 119 feet of frontage but give 3815 the full natural property lines. Because of the thick trees, there's really no access from the larger property, the back property, to the smaller. So in a sense, we're just trying to bring property lines, surveyed property lines, into what we kind of call reality.
Okay, I'm going to look at this, I'm looking at this, the 3815.
Yes.
Is that a home and a barn, I believe, on that?
Yes, there's a home, a barn, and a pole barn garage.
Okay. And is that where you're residing now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then on the 3841, there's a building. What is that?
That's a new home construction. My son built that home.
Okay.
So, and since there's another home on there, and my son built it for his wife and his children, at this time, it just seemed to make good sense to officially alter the boundary lines.
And basically, then the 119 foot of frontage is more or less be his access to that home. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And we're also looking at several properties that are more or less across the street from you that have smaller than the 200-foot frontage. is what I'm
Yes.
saying.
3 of them are, I believe, 82 and a half feet. I don't have my numbers right in front of me. I have it in the packet, but yes, there are a good number of them that are already smaller than 200 feet. And the 119 would still be larger than several of them.
Am I correct in assuming there's no intention of doing any other building on either of these sites?
That is correct.
Jody, if they were to do something like that and decide, oh, we're going to build a little bit extra, they would have to come to the planning commission to do that, is that correct?
Right, and they'd have to bring a street in to do it. If they retain just 119, that'd be wide enough for a public street right away, or a private street, if they wanted to further develop that back acreage.
But if, but my
Yeah.
question is,
Yeah.
if they decided they wanted to develop further and put homes back in that wooded area behind that, they would have to come to the planning commission to do so.
Planning Commission and the Township Board.
Okay. And then that would either be approved or denied. Any other questions from the board? Go ahead, Fred.
Question, how will your son access his property that he's building on?
The 119 feet of frontage already has a driveway on it.
Okay, it does have now.
It does have a driveway on there now.
Thank you.
Again, maybe to Jim, this is basically one piece of property with two different property numbers, correct?
Yeah, before our ordinance now currently requires that your 200 feet be contiguous.
Yes.
Earlier, it did not require that, and then people would split these U-shaped parcels.
Okay.
That's no longer considered conforming, so you already have a non-conforming parcel in that you don't have contiguous frontage. That's why Colton presented an alternate of saying you could keep the 165 to the north and delete the area to the south, and you would still grant a partial variance. That's the alternate variance, I think, that Colton presented to the board.
Okay.
But nowadays, you can't do that anymore, so. Now you just need to see if there's
questions from the board? Anything that needs clarification or from the homeowner? Then I'm going to ask for a motion on this.
Public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, any comments from the, any comments from the, would you please step up to the mic and state your name for the record?
My name's Craig Wedham, and that's my wife Elaine. This property was originally my father-in-law's, or actually my wife's great-great-grandfather. It was his farm. And then my father-in-law had, when he passed away, you folks, that land was all zoned agricultural, and you folks made me change the zoning on it to be rural residential. And then I had to pay for that pleasure of changing it. So it cost me money to do it, to turn it into rural residential. And that was, you made me, Oshtemo Township made me do that, or us. So anyways, we did that, and then when my father-in-law passed away, we had to sell the estate. So we took that, there was 42 acres there, and we divided that by 3 for each of my wife and her brother and her sister. And so we did that, and we plotted that all out according to what you folks told us we had to have done, so I had a surveyor come out and do that. And then we paid him, and there was something on that survey that was not acceptable to you folks, so I got the pleasure of paying the surveyor a second time to get that property surveyed. Now, we had that surveyed in such a fashion as what it was is 3 parcels, all right? And it was kind of a painful process, as it was. But we got that done, and you folks told me at that time that there could be no changes or no boundary moves until after a minimum of 10 years. Okay? That was your request. Your Oshtemo Township told us that. And there was no way that the boundary lines on that property could be changed until after 10 years minimum. Now,
It was done in 2017.
okay, so that was your request. Now, my problem is, you have these rules, and then you break them, and then you change them to suit whatever you want. You know, and we got a minimum of 2 years before this boundary line can be changed. You know, and part of me, I don't have a problem with what they're doing, but my part of the problem is, why did Oshtemo Township issue a building permit on a piece of property that didn't pass the building code? And besides that, where they put that house is sitting right on top of an underground river, or right by it. Did anybody pay any attention to what the groundwater contamination is going to be? Because that river comes across the front of our property, down the side. You get about down that, what they put in as a driveway, about 200, 300 feet, 400 feet. That water is down there, because I drove those stakes down there, and you drive them T-posts, whatever they are, about 5, 6, that last 2 foot, that post just went zoom. So there's water down there about 4 foot. And I don't know exactly where it all goes, but I know that house is sitting on, or very, very close to where that water, that underground stream goes, because it goes there around that lowland that was there, because that was all green. And it goes around the nose of that, into the front, into the back corner back there, because where the other corner of the property, because that was divided in 3 pieces, and I know my wife has a plat thing, but I can tell you roughly where that is. But you go back there and put a stake in there, and you drive that down, and the only reason I was putting stakes in is because it was where the survey markers were at. Okay, because we had the land surveyed, I had stakes run 200 foot on both sides of the property. And they
I'm
put
sorry, you
posts.
have 10 seconds to wrap up your comments. You get 4 minutes.
Well, that's all, but I don't understand how you can make these rules and then totally ignore them and change them for whatever. And I understand these people are in a problem, but he built this house for his son, but the house is for sale. So if his son's gonna live it, why is it for sale? Obviously, it's a little more than somebody can handle. You know, I mean, it's over $1 million they're asking for the house, which is
Your time's
a
up,
benefit.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I could address some of the issues. Basically, when somebody comes in for a land division, yes, under state law, it's not necessarily a local ordinance, but state law is it does limit further divisions, but within that law, you can make lot line adjustments and it would not constitute a split. So if you went to the alternate variance, moved the one lot line south, you haven't created any more splits. You still have the same number of parcels. So I don't believe there's a violation of local ordinance or state law by moving that lot line. As to whether or not the property was buildable, it had the requisite frontage because it was a legal non-conforming lot prior to the change in the ordinance. So that addresses the two questions. I can address where the water's at on the property. I have no comment. I don't know anything about it.
And again, would it fulfill the state requirements if we went with the first proposal as opposed to the alternate, either one?
Well, it would, if you grant the variance, it would meet state law requirements for a buildable parcel because you'd be granting the variance. I think the question you have to answer is whether or not within granting the variance, you're always to try to grant the minimum necessary for substantial justice. And I think that's what Colton presented to you. In other words,
Yeah, but my question simply was, either one fulfills the state?
either one,
Yeah, okay.
my understanding of the Land Division Act, my understanding of the building code, there's no violation here.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? Is there any other comments?
I have a question. The property with 200 feet of frontage, what year was that created? The one in the middle?
I believe that that happened in 1997.
Okay,
It
so
was-
it's not part of these 2017 splits?
No.
They were two parcels then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? At this time, I'm asking for a motion.
Colton, can you go to the motion page? Please, thank you. I'll make a motion to support the variance approval for the reasons indicated.
Are you looking at the alternate or the,
No,
the first one with the 119-foot?
yeah.
We have a motion. Is there support? Can I support this?
I would su-
Oh, wait, okay, thank you, Fred. We have a motion and support. At this time, I'd like to do a roll call. Fred?
Yes.
Rod? Yes. Dusty?
Yes.
Harry? Yes. It's for the variance with the 119-foot frontage for the driveway.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm getting tired of this. Okay, where am I next up? My agenda, there, thank you, I've got too many papers. This is for frontage variance of Husted, and that's a 9600 block of West L Avenue.
Thank you, Vice Chair. The property owner, Scott Husted, is requesting a variance to allow a non-conforming parcel with inadequate frontage to be rendered buildable to construct a single-family home on it. The subject parcel currently has 60 feet of road frontage, where the ordinance currently requires there to be a minimum of 200 feet of road frontage. Any splits prior to the 1965 ordinance provision requiring the 200-foot minimum frontage requirement are considered to be grandfathered. Since the split occurred sometime after The frontage ordinance provision was adopted. The parcel is currently deemed unbuildable. A visual of the subject property is provided on the slide. Again, the Michigan courts have applied 5 principles for a variance. These standards are outlined on this slide, and I'll review each one against this variance request. The first criterion, again, to consider is unique physical circumstances. Staff is not aware of any unique physical limitations or conditions preventing compliance. Consider surrounding properties on West Isle Avenue, as there are several unplatted parcels within 1/4 of a mile from the property in question that has less than 200 feet of road frontage. Frontage nearby parcels include approximately 32 feet, 104 feet, 150 feet, and 169 feet, all of which are improved with single-family homes on them. It could be argued that the current frontage of 60 feet is harmonious with the existing character of the area. Moving on to the second criterion, which is whether conformance is unnecessarily burdensome. Reasonable options for compliance are available by continuing to operate the property in its present state for agriculture without a dwelling on it. Uses presently being made of the property and denial of the variance would not prevent continuing the current use. It may be possible to bring the property into conformance with respect to road frontage without a variance, as the applicant could potentially explore acquiring additional frontage from an adjacent parcel. The third criterion to consider is substantial justice. So in researching past CBA decisions regarding variance relief from the township's road frontage requirements, planning department staff identified 2 cases that may help the ZBA consider past precedents, which are both included in the report from staff. The fourth criterion to consider is whether the request is a self-created hardship. So are the conditions or circumstances which resulted in the variance request created by actions of the applicant or a previous landowner. The division of the property into its current configuration was at the discretion of the property owner at the time, and therefore it could be argued to be self-created. The last criterion to consider is regarding the health, safety, and welfare of others. If a variance is granted, it is not expected that the request would negatively impact the health, safety, and welfare of the public. On this slide is a summary of the findings of fact for both approval and denial of the variance. Then lastly is possible board motions. Possible board motions include the ZBA approves the variance request, allowing the property to become buildable to accommodate a single-family home, or 2, the ZBA denies the variance request.
Are there any questions from staff? At this point, I would like to have comments from anyone here, the property owner, would like to describe what's planned. Please step up to the microphone, state your name.
How are you doing today? I'm Scott Husted from Husted Farms. I've owned the property since 1982. The gentleman that owned it before owned the house to the west, and he continued to live there after I bought it, so he had this split before but I purchased it from him, and he split the property. There's another house to the east, which is probably 50 feet from my line, and the one to the west is 40 feet from my line, so there's no additional frontage available for my section, the 60-foot that I have. So we've had it for since 82, and we're getting up to where we're going to retire. And to get somebody else to go in there and farm, they'd probably need a house on it. So we're just trying to make it easily for somebody else to continue. And also that it's kind of conforms with the townships, like they wanted larger parcels than the western third of the township, I heard previously. And this is a 14-acre parcel, which one house on there it'd be a nice parcel for somebody to have with one house. But right now, I don't see where there's a way to get additional frontage because there's houses both sides of the driveway. And if you guys got any other questions?
Is this farm being used right now?
Yes.
And what are you growing there, just out of curiosity?
Apples.
Okay.
Yeah, it has about 8 acres of apples, and then it has about 5 acres of open ground that we can grow corn or pumpkins or something like that for our farm market. This year it was fallow, but it has apples, yes, is a permanent crop.
Now, the width of that little frontage there at 60 feet, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Just so I know I heard it, and I just want to verify it.
yes, sir.
Okay. And Jody, I think I want to ask the same thing here. Again, 60 feet would not even be enough to have a road in there, should they decide to break that up and make it a,
Well, our transportation and mobility ordinance allows a 50-foot wide easement for private
Okay.
streets.
but again, as I said before, if they decided to split this up, it would have to come before the planning commission and the board.
That's correct.
Okay. Just wanted to clear that up. Anybody else has any comments on this particular situation?
I have a question for the applicant. Have you considered approaching the neighbor on your northwest corner to get some frontage on L due north of your west end?
North of the west end? Oh, it's
Yeah.
on the south side of the road.
Well, west of 95, or now is that 9677 West L, the next parcel over, I don't know its address,
Of course, it wouldn't be continuous.
but I could.
The one with the house on it to the west?
Next
I
to
can't
that
tell from this aerial if there's a house on that next one. I just see they have quite a bit of frontage. On the,
You mean if I got, well, what it is, it's like my driveway, and then their house is 40 feet.
and then there's another parcel that looks to be wooded. Can you see it on the screen?
Oh, I see what you're saying, Jody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Just the wood, in other words, the woods, yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah, that's, he owns that right now, and he owns 60 acres there. He's not, I don't think Mitchell's, I don't think they're really interested in selling. Because he has 60 acres with that, and that would reduce his frontage. And he doesn't have that much frontage there.
That would be the entire 60 acres, or have to have that split, a little portion. Okay, I can understand that.
Yeah, I think he has about 300 feet there that goes to his 60.
Are there any other questions from the board? Any other comments? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion.
I don't think you took public comment yet on this one.
Pardon me?
Public comment.
Didn't I ask for public comment?
I thought you asked for comments from anybody, including the applicant, but,
Yeah.
Oh,
so, just make sure.
All right, is there anyone who has, sitting out here that has comments about this? Yes? No? No? Okay. Oh, okay. No, that's part fine. It's,
My name's Gordon Bovee. I live across the street from this parcel, and we live on a 15-acre parcel and then own the adjacent parcel to that. And I don't see any problem with having a home on 15 acres. That seems like a very reasonable thing to me. So I don't have any objection to them building, or making it buildable anyway. So that would be okay.
Okay, thank you. Now, is there anyone on the board have anything else, anybody else? Now I'm looking for a motion. Then I'm going to make a motion that we grant this variance by the fact that this was not self-created, it was the way it was when he purchased it. I see no way in the world that this is going to affect public safety. It is a unique lay of the land, and asking the person to purchase another piece of property to fulfill that would be very burdensome. So with those reasons, I move that we support and grant this variance. I'm looking for support on this.
Support.
We have a motion and support. I'll do another roll call. Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Mr. Van Plank?
Yes.
Ms. Farmer?
Yes.
Mr. Jackham, yes. Motion carries. Enjoy your property. I think we're going to move into any other updates or business. Jody, you got something for us?
I do not.
Anything else? We'll move on to number 9, which is adjournment. I move that we adjourn. Anybody want to second that?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. I don't think anybody's opposed. No, we're good.